bottom of the screen there. And it might be a little bit tricky to see there because I haven't got full width here. But that line corresponds to, oh, there you go, we've highlighted it there. That corresponds to a very particular frequency, and the resonant frequency of this chamber, this pod, is 117. And what's so interesting about this is that I found it intuitively within literally seconds. So I'll just play the intro to the track again. This is literally me jumping in and finding it. So what I did was I kind of went up, ooh, until effortlessly the coffer started creating standing waves with the frequency coming from my mouth, my vocal cords, 117 hertz. So that blew me away literally in seconds. I'd found this mystical frequency. And then digging deeper, I discovered, since I came back from Egypt, literally in the last couple of weeks, that recordings have been made in the room, different times. So this is from 1981. It's the same frequency. This is Stephen Halpern, who's a New Age artist. Now, he and his fellow singers went in there just to intuitively make music. They didn't have any tuning forks, they just found that frequency. Here's another frequency from 2019. So you can hear, we all found it. Something gave us that insight. I don't know why, just intuition. Maybe we were all musical, we just knew that it had to be a frequency that felt effortless and natural. Can we put this next slide on, please? So there have been various bits of research around this, and there seems to be this sort of sweet spot between 114 hertz and 122 hertz. And it's 117. If you come to the next slide. Now then, if you can just tilt it down a little bit, there you go, tilt it down, so you get 117. Now, slides to the left a bit so we can see what that is. That's not the Great Pyramid of Khufu. Do you want to sort of put the slide up a bit? And we'll see some text at the bottom of the screen. Tilt it across a bit. There we go. That is, I'm going to probably pronounce it poorly, Chichen Itza. Yeah. So, this opens up a whole can of worms for me. Why are these acoustic spaces exhibiting the same resonant frequency, a very specific frequency, and what is it for? Next slide, please. I recently discovered this documentary by Femi Krasniki, and if you have a spare 3.5 hours, it's well worth viewing. The reason why, now my interest is sort of so piqued in Egyptology, chemitology, or the myth rather than the fact. If we consider the pyramids, and we consider all of the various theories about how they were constructed, to me, Femi's research suggests something very interesting, which is that the stone, the limestone, which the pyramids are surrounded with on the Giza Plateau, was the natural material, it was already there. Why would you have to ship in materials, carve materials, that are already on your doorstep? So, wait for it, the Egyptians knew how to cast concrete, geopolymers. This to me is possibly the most plausible theory for how the pyramids were built. Now, I'm open to anyone's suggestions, but since I've seen this and since I've been there are various things about the pyramids that literally will blow your mind. Just on the right-hand side there, you can see a cast. Most of the monuments that we saw, most of the stone that we touched, was so smooth. How could it have been carved? And not only that, the density of the materials, Aswan rose granite, very, very difficult to carve and cut it. Even the limestone, very difficult. I watched a documentary about cutting limestone. It would take somewhere in the region of 4 hours to get 4 millimeters. Now, imagine trying to cut literally 1 million blocks to build a pyramid. It's going to take you a while. And this took 25 years to build. Next slide, please. Various aspects of the pyramid are starting to become very interesting. It exhibits a lot of sacred geometry, and this is pre-Phoenician, pre-Greek. Why? Why would this beautiful, perfect shaped object exhibit all of this sacred geometry? Go to the next slide. It's literally everywhere. The Fibonacci spiral, the perfect proportion, the 4 universal metrics are exhibited everywhere. And if we just move to the right-hand side, the coffer that I was inside exhibits all of this as well. Hello, that's pi. So why would these 4 universal constants be deployed by the architects at the time? What did they know? Anyone from France tonight? Okay, apologies in advance, but I'm about to possibly say something controversial. So, the diameter of a droplet of water, which was known as the width of a royal finger, was 1 centimetre. And if you look everywhere within the pyramid, the centimetre becomes the decimetre, becomes the metre, the royal cubit. All of these measurements predate the French metric system by about 3,000 years. Oops. So, how have we arrived at this? Now, I'm not going to postulate as to where this technology or where this mathematics has come from, but there was a seismic shift at this point in culture. Very, very smart individuals. But I think ultimately, they tuned into nature. Next slide. There's some very interesting research around the acoustics of these sacred spaces, and from what I've been learning, and I'm literally deep diving into it at the moment, it seems that these spaces were perhaps not tombs, perhaps they weren't celebrating death, but perhaps they were for rejuvenation or rebirth or for life. And my thinking is that the coffer that I lay in and resonated in, it generated so much natural energy from the standing waves. I mean, I was tingling from head to toe, buzzing like you would not believe. There's something about that does not say to me, it's a tomb. No one found bodies, mummies in the tomb. The lid of the tomb was never found. Yes, there was looting that was going on, but to my mind, these sacred spaces are for other purposes of ritual initiation, activation, utilizing a technology based on these beautiful natural laws, maths and sacred geometry that were able to deliver some pretty potent acoustics. Next slide, please. And where I've arrived at the moment is that whatever I'm researching and finding, it seems to be leading me further into this wonderful kind of journey of exploration. Carl and I experienced 20 minutes on our own, and then we had about 40 minutes chanting in a circle, and the track that I've created and played for you this evening was created from the recordings that we made in the chamber that night. And I wanted to capture what we're thinking about here, which is this elevated spiritual state, this elevated connection with the divine. By the way, the shafts to the left and right of the Great Chamber perfectly align with Sirius. And to me, to a centimetre, absolutely bang on. There are things we don't know, there are things that still remain a mystery, but I can tell you that I felt something. And those that have spent the night in the chamber have had all kinds of paranormal experiences. Napoleon spent a night in there and would not talk about what he experienced. I think we can say that there are things that we need to maybe open our minds to beyond science and allow ourselves to maybe feel intuitively. What I do in my work is a blend of intuition, art, music, but also through the lens of science. So I'm fascinated, can we quantify all of these experiences? So the next step beyond this is we go back and we measure, because no one's done this. No one's taken an EEG headset in there. So watch this space. We'll see where we go with it. Thank you very much.